The United Nations' first investigative body into North Korean human rights, the Commission of Inquiry, or COI, came to Korea to conduct special hearings. The visiting members met with the Prime Minister, NGOs dedicated to North Korean human rights, and defectors between August 20th and 24th. We heard from Unification Ministry Correspondent Hwang Sung-hee about field research on North Korea's human rights conditions.
The turmoil in Egypt prompted Pope Francis to pray for...
The violence is intensifying in Egypt as anti-government protesters and Egyptian security forces engage in clashes. Reporter Park Ji-won reported on the international community's reaction to the crisis in Egypt, including the U.S. debate over whether to cut off military aid to the country. And in addition, News in Depth invited a Middle East expert for an interview to discuss the crisis in Egypt.
Arirang News. Arirang 5.
On August 22nd, the Korea multi-purpose satellite Arirang 5 was launched from Russian soil. Reporter Song Ji-sun appeared on Korea Today to report on the story the morning before the satellite launch. She delivered the details on the characteristics and future uses of the satellite and outlined the expected scenarios for the launch. Arirang 5 is Korea's first satellite with radars that can see at night and during extreme weather conditions.
Images as precise as 1 meter resolution.
During the 18th presidential election last December, a female official at the National Intelligence Service allegedly put up internet comments criticizing a presidential candidate. The National Assembly was in turmoil over the issue. The ruling and opposition parties have been in constant dispute ever since the last presidential election 8 months ago. Finally, it was agreed that a hearing should be opened. This is the second day of the hearing.
뭐 애로사항 없죠? 뭐 아까 바뀌라고 하는 것 같은데?
아, 저 통으로 만들어달라고 앞뒤 조금 당겨달라고.
나 바로 여기 위에 앉아있을 거니까 카톡 잘 보고요. 내가 이렇게 할 테니까. 여기 있을게요.
National Assembly correspondent Kim Yeon-ji has been covering the situation since January.
So right now there are allegations that the National Intelligence Service of Korea meddled in last year's presidential election. Former NIS Director Won Se-hoon was indicted on charges of ordering his agents to launch a smear campaign online in favor of the ruling party. And so a special parliamentary committee has been investigating whether the charges are true, whether the accusations are true. And so on Monday, they summoned some 26 witnesses to really verify what had really taken place just before the election.
Something in the room became the center of attention even before the hearing started. The giant screen wall at the witness stand is getting the spotlight. amid the expected controversy.
국가정보원 댓글 의혹 등의 진상규명을 위한 국정조사 특별위원회를 개의하겠습니다. 현직 국가정보원 직원인 증인의 신분 노출 방지를 위해서 증인석 뒤편에 있는 사람막도에 이분들 자리를 마련했습니다. 그곳에서 위원들의 신문에 대해서 답변하도록 하겠습니다.
양심에 따라 숨김과 보탬이 없이 사실 그대로를 말하고 만일 진술이나 서면 답변에 거짓이 있으면 위증의 벌을 받기로 맹세합니다.
군사진행 발언은 좀
The clashes between the ruling and opposition party members intensify from the start.
소상하게 발언을 하지 않으면은 이를 시청하는 국민들께서 오해를 하기 때문에 제가 자세히 설명.
So the first hearing, for this parliamentary committee, it was held on Friday, and the Friday's hearing had only 2 witnesses, and on Monday's hearing, so the second hearing to this case, they decided to bring in all of the witnesses that they had on their list. So it was 26, and it involved former and incumbent NIES agents, as well as police officers who actually investigated this case. And so that was big, and again, because it involved acting and inactive NIS agents, we kind of had to protect their identity, and so the National Assembly ended up putting up a screen wall to, kind of not show their faces and bodies, and so that was very special as well.
현직 국정원 직원입니다. 신분상으로. 그리고 현직 국정원 직원이 출근하는지 안 하는지 어떻게 알겠습니까?
박원동, 임병주 두 증인은 커튼을 걷고 앞으로 당장 나와주시기 바랍니다.
The lawmakers argue for more than 2 hours over the issue of protecting the witnesses' identities.
저기를 잘라내 도려내야 됩니다. 저분들을 얼굴을 가리라는 거지 저렇게 무슨 방어를 해주기 위해서 차단막을 치는 게 아니지 않습니까? 이거는 청문회 취지에 분명히 어긋나는 사항입니다. 그리고 저희가
Yeon-ji has to write a story for the 12 o'clock news, but she's unable to leave.
범죄 혐의가 있는 사람들인데.
발언을 들어주세요.
국회의원인데 왜 퇴장시키라고 그러십니까? 우선 위원장님.
발언을 빨리 하시라고.
Because of the commotion at the hearing, Yeon-ji can't spare even a second. She writes the story from her seat in the audience.
얼굴을 가리는 채로 그냥 목소리만에 의해서 진실이 규명이 됩니까? 그렇기 때문에
민주당은 악마의 합의를 했다고 하더니 또 법 해석을 악마의 해석을 하는 것 같습니다.
Following the argument over the screen wall issue, the ruling party members leave the room just after noon.
법조인이나 비법조인이나 법률 규정까지
참 야당 간사로서 어이없고 황당합니다. 이렇게 중간에 퇴장을 하는 것이 벌써 몇 번째입니다.
오후 2시에 청문회를 계속하도록 하겠습니다.
있어도 상관없다고. 얼굴만 안 찍으면 된다고.
아니 핸드폰을 책상 위에
상관없다고.
Yeon-ji urgently looks for the camera team.
증인 제가 조금 관심 있는 증인들이 있는데.
녹취 정확히 따른 거는 저쪽인데.
그쵸, 오케이.
제가 전해줄게.
맨 앞줄, 맨 뒷줄.
The questioning of the witnesses finally starts in the afternoon. It comes after some part of the screen wall has been cut off.
왜 구체적인 기억이 없죠?
Meanwhile, Yeon-ji waits to connect for a live phone report for the 2 p.m. live news. But at the same time, she is busy monitoring the live coverage of the hearing as she writes the script.
Some lawmakers also argued the 4 agents.
Let's now connect live with our Kim Yeon-ji, who's following the event at the National Assembly. So Yeon-ji, what was the problem with the hearing this morning?
Hi, Talon. I've seen many hearings at the National Assembly, but this one had something unusual, and that was a giant white screen. The screen wall
She does the live phone connection right from her desk.
National Intelligence Service agents who have been summoned as witnesses for today's hearing.
So what do you think will happen now?
Well, the hearing has been resumed. Despite the ruling party's opposition,
Changes have just been made to the screen wall to at least show the NIS.
The news updates are constant during the hearing, which has been going on for an entire day. This is why she is unable to relax up to the last minute of the live news.
박근혜 후보를 지지하고 야당 후보를 반대하는 댓글을 올리라는 지시를 받은 적이 있나요?
그러한 지시를 받은 적 없습니다.
Yeon-ji writes down the responses by the witnesses with speed.
12월 15일 새벽까지 저희들 수석팀이 수사를 하고 늦은 귀가를 하는 도중에 저희 수석 진흥팀 직원으로부터 전화가 왔습니다. 서울청에서 키워드를 줄여달라고 한다라는 그런 말이었습니다. 키워드 축소는 곧 수사의 축소를 의미합니다.
그렇죠.
The highlight of this day's hearing was the testimonies from 26 total witnesses who were brought in for questioning.
여직원이라는 말을 그렇게 듣다가 직원이라는 말로 오늘
여러 증인이 있었지만 권은희 군하고 김하영 그분만 찾아가지고 이거는 처음에 있는 거고 맨 처음 그다음에 이제 위치 대체 파악할 수 있죠. 김재원 선생님이랑 이런 식으로 찾으면은 금방 할 거야. 그래서
So getting the sound bites is very important because, you know, I can of course as a reporter in my package kind of tell my viewers what has really happened, what this witness said. I could summarize and paraphrase, but the effect is not the same as, you know, when I actually presented to them what the witness actually said in her own words. And so I really was determined to get, you know, direct sound bites from the witnesses, and so I was busily typing up, you know, what each witness really says, what his argument is. And then from that, I kind of had to select the ones that I thought were really crucial and important. And I kind of had to do the quick decision making myself, and then I actually used those sound bites to really give the witnesses their voice to the viewers and telling them, okay, this is what happened, this is how I see this event from my perspective. Other high-ranking NIS agents. 선생님 이쪽으로 가시는 거 아니에요? 이거 걸고 해야 하니까. Other high-ranking NIS agents at the hearing said, 다시 할게요.
Following the phone connection, Yeon-ji has to write a news package for the 6 p.m. news.
Agents at the hearing said there may be posted comments online that others may have judged as being inappropriate or problematic, but they claim they only posted them to effectively counter North Korean propaganda in cyberspace. Kim Yeon-ji, Arirang News. Before the December election was among them. The agent said she was only fulfilling. 끝나면 하고. At Monday's hearing involving NIS agents, a giant screen wall was set up as the result of the investigation at 11 p.m. on December 16th, just 3 days before the election.
Only a final edit of the video remains. Yeon-ji has made very good use of her time.
아니 근데 얘기를 들어보시고 이상할 것 같으면 말씀해 주세요. 그러니까 권은희 그 내용이 뭐냐면 권은희 과장이 김용판 청장한테 전화를 받았다. 12월 16일에 그거 압수수색 영장 발부하지 말라고 자기가 준비하고 있었는데 그 내용이에요. 네, 그래서 그때 그 김용판 그림을 딱 넣으면 또 너무 좀 그러려나? 아니면 어차피 이거 얘기 나올 때 권은희 과장은 줬기 때문에 선배 말대로 그냥 뒤에 편집하신 것처럼 그냥 딴 그림 넣어도 돼요?
Yeon-ji is meticulous about every word she writes and the video footage that's shot. Because this is a hot topic and party members are fighting over it, it is receiving a lot of attention from the public.
Every time I report on a certain hearing, I feel this heavy responsibility because our viewers don't have any means to really watch the entire process, the entire hearing process, but I'm there, to really see and hear what's really going on at the hearing, what are the arguments being presented, and then I have to be the person kind of delivering, both sides of the arguments to our viewers. And so this is a huge scandal involving the state's intelligence committee. This is something that I think all Koreans are kind of following these days. That's one of the biggest headline news of the time. And so although things were very, very difficult, like the humidity and the heat I had to fight, and also the deadlines, quick news updates. So all these things added together, it was a very long and difficult day. And I really had to do my very best because the case that I was following was something of a national interest. And so, yes.
As part of an ongoing parliamentary probe into allegations that the spy agency meddled in last year's presidential election, our Kim Yeon-ji reports.
At Monday's hearing involving NIS agents, a giant screen wall was set up so that their faces...
The news package was sent to Arirang TV from the National Assembly at a few minutes past 6 p.m. The story barely made it on the live newscast.
Candidates before the December election were down to just 4, and then released the results of the investigation at 11 p.m. on December 16th, just 3 days before the election.
The hearing at the National Assembly continues late into the night before coming to an end. People start to leave as more empty seats are spotted, but reporter Kim Yeon-ji holds the TV remote control in her hands while she keeps watch of the live coverage from the hearing.
It seems both sides want to step into this whole project, both opponent and top.
Biological clock이라고 했는데 괜찮겠죠?
네, biological clock.
Biological clock이 고장나면 어떻게 되냐?
네.
이거랑 이제 휴가철이니까 휴가 끝나고 돌아온 사람들 위해서 좀 빨리 회복할 수 있는 방법 좀 알려달라. 팁 좀 주십시오.
선생님 안녕하세요. 이문재라고 합니다. 네, 오늘 이거 할 건데 이 첫 번째 이거에 대한 대답을 어떤 대답을 하셨어요?
일반 사람 이런 거에다가 이런 거에다가 요 태양빛 태양빛 뇌하고 태양빛 눈 들어오는 그만 정도 해주면 설명이 좀 같이 나올 것 같은데. That means I get light through the eye and the signal to the biological clock. So at noon, for example, the intensity of sunlight is the maximum.
다른 부분은 저희가 이제 알아서 준비를 했는데요. 요거는 지금 그림이 조금 애매모호해서.
예.
알겠습니다.
올빼미 형인 것 같아요.
올빼미.
네.
대부분 여기 밤에 이쪽 일하시는 분들이 대부분 타임 시프트고 젊은 사람은
그런 편이에요.
나이 든 사람은 점점 좀 할 일 없으니까 자꾸 일찍 일어나야 되고.
왜 그런 거예요? 왜 전화는 그렇게 선천적으로 태어난 건 아니잖아요.
선천적으로 이제 유전적으로 약간 결정이 돼 있어요.
아 그래요?
네, 유전적으로 한 반 정도 사람은 모닝 락, 반 정도 사람은 나이트 아울 타입이고 반이 중간 형태고.
휴가철에서 돌아왔을 때 그 얘기도 연결을 어느 분에서 연결을 해서 말씀해 주시나요?
휴가철 부분에 내용들이 이제 이 바이오클락이 어떻게 돌아가느냐, 그러니까 주로 햇빛을 보고 햇빛에 제일 강한 때 12시에 맞춰가지고 그때 12시라는 걸 몸이 아니까
딱 생체 시계가 그럼 어떤 거예요?
생체 시계가 그러니까 이 뇌에서 몇 개의 유전자들이 관여를 하는데 중요한 거는 그게 모든 시그널을 다 보내는 거죠. 각 장기로.
한 50분쯤 같이 내려가시면 돼요.
그래요.
그럼 이따 뵐게요.
네.
왜 이렇게 갑자기 다이얼로그에 액티브하게 나오는지 북한이.
First of all, for the last 6 months, since the February 16th nuclear test, international community has strongly imposed the international sanctions. I think now, after saving kind of their faces, they realize the reality. At this time, the South Korean Seoul's Park Geun-hye government is not the same as usual, like former liberal governments, particularly actions like at the last minute of after the vote, during the 7 round of talks, South Koreans are ready to give the insurance money to all the companies. That message, that actions gave a strong message to North Korea. So I think the North Korean Pyongyang realized, oh, this is the last chance actually.
This is not related to the topic we'll be talking about today, but I personally asked the Defense Ministry spokesman if he can put off, delay the Uji Freedom Garden exercise maybe a little, just for the sake of
military
the dialogue,
without training and at field exercise, pre-planned exercise delaying is unacceptable because the purpose of military is the kind of deterrence of any aggression. So I think the pre-planned exercises must go on, and I think the delaying is kind of politically contaminated, politically oriented, exercise. Military is military.
How big in scale do you expect the reunion to be this year if it takes place? How many people?
So usually less than 150 people, and usually 100, 120. So it's very symbolic. But for the 2010, I think more than 80,000 people registered, who is desperately willing to. But unfortunately, every year 2,000 of them are passing away. So I think this is not like the traditional time, like a diplomatic or military economy issue. This is humanitarian issue.
That's a tragedy.
That's tragic.
Nowhere to be seen elsewhere in the world.
That's why this symbolic event of whether it could be the Panmunjom and Kumgang Mountain Resort area, that's another story. Let's meet the international standards as a human being.
근데 박사님 일단은
Okay,
내려가셔야
let's go.
될 것 같아요 이제.